BBC News with Sue Montgomery. Ukraine's allies say they will send more military support to help its forces push back a renewed Russian offensive. Following a video call between Western leaders, President Biden said the US would provide extra weapons. The German Chancellor Olaf Scholz promised to give Ukraine money to buy anti-tank and air defense equipment. Namia Iqbal in Washington has the details.
President Biden spoke with the leaders of Canada, France, the UK and other allies as the Russian invasion reaches a new phase. The White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said they discussed their coordinated efforts to further impose what she described as severe economic costs to hold Russia accountable. When asked later by reporters if he planned to send more artillery to Ukraine, Mr. Biden said yes. The Department of Defense confirmed it will be delivered in a matter of days. A senior official has said the US sees Russia carrying out a prelude to larger offensive operations in the eastern part of Ukraine.
Ukrainian forces say they're holding out against the Russian assault despite intense bombardment in the Luhansk region. They say they've made a successful counter-offensive in Marinka in the Donetsk region. The military said shelling continued in the city of Kharkiv and Russian troops were attacking further south in Izium. The head of the International Monetary Fund has warned that Russia's invasion of Ukraine is sending shockwaves through the globe, dealing a further setback to countries already struggling to recover from the pandemic. Speaking in Washington ahead of the annual joint meeting with the World Bank, Kristalina Georgieva said the outlook was highly uncertain.
The war may get worse, the sanctions can tighten up, COVID may roam again around the world, and we know that we can have shocks that cause failure of crops. So for policymakers, tough time.
The IMF chief said the war was also aggravating global food insecurity for the poorest countries. The British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has given what he called a wholehearted apology to Parliament after he was fined for breaking COVID lockdown laws. He repeated it hadn't occurred to him that a birthday gathering he attended at Downing Street nearly 2 years ago was a breach of the rules. Here's Ian Watson.
It's not the voters who decide at this stage whether Boris Johnson remains in Downing Street, but his own MPs. So when he spoke to them behind closed doors tonight, he delivered a call for unity. And he argued the choice was really between the Conservatives, led by him, or the danger of a Labour government. He said he had genuine regrets over Partygate, but it wasn't a major part of his speech. Privately, many of his Conservative critics say they won't back Labour's attempt to investigate whether he misled Parliament. But the feeling at Westminster is that Ukraine and the cost of living crisis have, for now, given the Prime Minister a get-out-of-jail card.
BBC News. A bomb blast at a bar in eastern Nigeria has killed at least 5 people. 19 others were seriously wounded in the explosion in the town of Iwari in Taraba State. Witnesses said the bomb had been hidden in a bag. Police said one of the suspected attackers had died. Police in Kenya say an athlete has been stabbed to death in the western town of Iten, which is home to a training base for long-distance runners. The killing of Damaris Muthi Mutua follows the death of an Olympic runner, Agnes Tirop, who was murdered in the same town in October. In a further setback to South Africa's economy, power cuts have been enforced for several days after generation units failed. The country's coal-fired plants regularly break down. The power company, Eskom, said the situation had been compounded by heavy rains, which had made coal stored outside wet. The Hollywood actor Johnny Depp has testified in his US defamation case against his ex-wife Amber Heard that he never struck her. Mr. Depp's civil lawsuit centres on an opinion piece Ms. Heard wrote for The Washington Post, in which she described herself as a victim of domestic violence. David Sillito reports.
The first question, Mr. Depp, why are you here today, was followed by a long pause. This was a moment he'd waited 6 years for, the beginning of a testimony in which Johnny Depp, the Hollywood actor, tries to convince a jury that he is the victim of a lie. Sitting opposite, watching intently, his ex-wife Amber Heard, who says she endured months of violence during their brief marriage. In court he said yes, there had been arguments, but he'd never struck her or any woman. He talked of his difficult childhood, the effect of the allegations on his children, and how at the beginning his relationship with Amber Heard had been a good one.
BBC News.